Are you a real man? Do you like playing real man games? Of course not. You're a fag, and you play faggy games like Goal Line Blitz. So put down your mother's lipstick and head on over to GoalLineBlitz.com today, where you can do all kinds of new faggy things like start your own character, give him faggy names like Harry Ballsack or Johnny Anal Lube. Goal Line Blitz. It's almost as fun as sucking almost.
What is up, everybody in Pigskin Empire? Welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Zero Dimes, here with a guest co-host, actually here with me, Daryl Patis, I think is how you say it.
Polities, but it doesn't even matter. What's up, guys?
Me and him are here with you guys, doing a little collaboration on the end of season show and like a pre-draft show. So right now, I'm just going to say first and foremost, congratulations to the Miami Hurricanes and to the Houston Texans for winning the NCAA championship and the EFL Empire Bowl. They both had really good seasons, and they both finished undefeated, so they both had really good seasons. Have you seen Miami or Houston play?
I've seen Miami. I know they have a good staff, so.
Yeah, and I actually want to I want to correct an error that I made on my last show. I said that Bob Frog was back, and it came to my attention that he actually wasn't. It's just the Asian persuasion David who is taking control of Bob's account. So Bob Frog actually isn't back. He's just the head coach of Miami, and that is being controlled by David. And I believe he is the head coach of Miami, I believe. So congratulations to you, and congratulations to, I believe it's Jimmy B of Houston for defeating my Carolina Panthers in the Empire Bowl. That was a pretty close game. We actually lost in the last few seconds, our last second touchdown.
Wow.
So. But yeah, it was a good season. Houston kind of ran away with it in terms of their schedule. They beat everybody very badly. So, and I believe the same goes for Miami. So, were there any shockers for the ECAA? I know you're mostly an ECAA guy. Was there any shocking seasons that you saw?
Kind of, yeah. I wasn't expecting Mississippi to be as good as they were. Josh is a great coach, but I was not expecting them to have the success that they had this season, and they ended up ending the season ranked number 4 in the rankings. So, very impressive season for Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi. They were also my surprise team. I personally wasn't expecting Mississippi to go so far. Georgia was also a team that did good. They weren't in the mains, but they won 13 games and they did really good. Missouri won 15 games. I think the SEC as a whole kind of put everybody on notice, because just a few seasons ago the SEC wasn't really that good, and now you have 5 teams above 10 wins, and they're only getting better. So
Yeah, definitely. And I hate to be in that conference. I remember when I used to dominate, but I just got to improve as a coach here.
yeah,
It's getting tough. Huh?
it is getting tough, and that's probably the toughest conference right now as I look at all the conferences. I mean, you have the Big Ten, who's for all...
Oh, yeah, the Big Ten's always been stacked, yeah.
As long as PSC has been alive, the Big Ten has always been stacked. Whether Purdue was good this season, they finished 15-1. You had Michigan, who had a really good season under a first-year head coach. Ohio State still staying up there in the top 10 in the rankings. You had Rutgers. And Ohio State and Michigan and Nebraska, you could always expect them to do pretty good. So Big Ten has always had some good football. A bit of a disappointing season for the MAC. Akron started the season highly ranked, and they only won 8 games.
I remember when Akron was actually one of the best teams in ECAA.
Yeah, they were. I believe they were as high as ranked number 1 just 2 or 3 seasons ago. So that's kind of a big downfall that they had there. Miami, I believe this is actually the second championship that they've captured in a row for Miami. Or no,
Yeah, I
they
think
lost
Onyx won one.
they lost last year and they won the year before that. So they had a bit of a 2 year. They've won 2 in the last 3 years. So Miami's kind of been the powerhouse lately. Texas kind of disappointed. They won all out in the regular season and they lost in the first round. So that was a little disappointing, especially to Mississippi in a close game. And so that was been my biggest disappointment team. Did you have any teams that disappointed you?
Other than my team, not really. Being honest, not really. Ohio State actually.
Yeah,
They lost 2 games against Purdue. I was expecting better. They were actually my favorites at one point to win the championship.
Do you have a too early favorite to win in next year's ECAA championship?
Mississippi and Miami. Mississippi and Miami.
You think it's gonna be a rematch? Okay, Mississippi is a good call. My pick this year was Southern Cal. Even though it's not Bob Frog running the show, it's David, I still have Southern Cal. Don't count out not Miami. South Florida or Texas. I believe RVJ is still there.
And Purdue. Can't count out Purdue either.
Yeah, Purdue's pretty solid. Any of those teams in the Big Ten, I feel like Michigan, Ohio State, Purdue, Nebraska, and Minnesota could all pop off at any point. So
yeah, Michigan staff is great coaches, but sometimes, they're great coaches, but most of the time they do not get along, and it messes up their chemistry.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I don't know if you've coached with anybody or if you have any coaches at Mississippi State, but when you're coaching with other people, chemistry means so much because it could be the driving force of you winning many games, or it could be the driving force in you losing some games. Because look at Texas and Miami of old when you had lockdown in NX, and they were winning left and right, and that's because they had cohesion. And that's kind of always how it's been in historically, because with whether it's NX or Lockdown or Kyle and TNL or Kazaric and Noel or Fly and Embassy, guys have people who they work with. It's really hard to coach alone and make it. It can be done, but it's very hard. And so that is the cohesion. So Michigan's got a lot going for them. Miami's got a lot going for them because it's Darren and David, and those two are probably the number 1 and 2 coaches in the whole game right now, in my opinion. And but there's a lot of people that are coming up. You were on the list. You started off the season. You had a pretty good start, and then you kind of fell off a little bit in Mississippi State. And then Mississippi, I gave props to them, and they did pretty good. I gave props to Georgia also. And the coaches that are at Georgia, like Fusion and like
Helix.
Yeah, I know Helix. Helix isn't really an older coach. He's had success before. I don't know how much he helped Georgia, but it must have been pretty good. But he also had that kind of success in Stanford. And so you have D Robocop in Michigan, who's coming up. You have Georgia and Fusion. You have Josh, who's been around at Mississippi, but he's kind of finding his footing in Mississippi. And that's all you gotta do. You just gotta find your footing. What were you saying?
Yeah. Trying to figure out who's Army's head coach. I know he's been around for a decent amount of time.
Let's
he's just
Army.
I think it's
Siafu. Yeah, Siafu's been around for a minute, and he's a good coach. I think Army. The thing about Army is they play such a cupcake schedule. Like if you look up and down the regular season schedule, none of those teams.
My goodness. Then Rutgers had a terrible year. I wouldn't say terrible, but they didn't
Yeah,
play as good as they usually.
that game surprised me because Rutgers was very good, and up to that point, and Army just had their way with them. And I mean,
Yeah,
that's not to say that Siafu's not good. It's just that when you dominate, bad teams all year, it can make you a little unprepared for the postseason because
yeah,
they beat Toledo 38-3, but then they got annihilated by Miami 48-3.
yeah,
And so when you're just playing a cupcake schedule, it can make you kind of, take your foot off the gas.
yeah,
And
definitely.
and when you play call against a really good team, it can kind of hurt you. And so yeah, those teams in the independents, they're no joke. Army, New Mexico State, and Notre Dame. New Mexico State went 13-1, but their recruiting class, they had a really good recruiting class. And so they have the talent to take it all the way, but they just need to have the plays and the play calling.
Yeah.
And so, what are some of the things that you do to prepare for a big game, say against Georgia or against LSU or Mississippi?
What I've tried to do, it hasn't really worked so far. I try to go back and watch, their best plays, plays that they have the most success on, and try to make plays to counter that. So, Mississippi State. Oh, I said Mississippi State. Mississippi. They have this one play. It's a bootleg, and he just absolutely destroyed me with it. The year before, and so I made a play that could stop that. But did I know that he had other plays that he could kill me with, and so you know
Yeah,
that doesn't
because
really work. So you know, just got to build up a playbook, really.
yeah, and have you? I don't know how long you've been at Mississippi State. How good has your playbook been? It's kind of hard to build a playbook when you're by yourself. But what are the things that you've done
Yeah.
to kind of help, kind of push your playbook to the next level?
Well, what I've been doing lately is use all my hours on plays one week, and then the next weeks I activate those plays, and get some development going a little bit. Try to get my QB ready for next season, and hopefully some of the incoming recruits I have are
They're
you
doing
know
pretty good.
make an impact. Yeah, 2 5 stars in my class, so
That's pretty solid.
hopefully they can.
Even
Yeah,
Arizona State doesn't have any 5 stars in my class. I signed a bunch of. I pretty much went only for speed because to keep up with the top teams, in my opinion, you got to be able to outrun them, and you got to get it in some way that those top teams, they'll have guys that have A pluses and everything. They'll have A pluses, and their running backs will break tackles and their receivers will catch passes against your corners. And the best thing to do against that is just to have people that can counter it. And I've seen that speed can kind of do that. I know Arizona State didn't really have any, say, impressive wins. We did beat Nebraska and Rutgers, but we got destroyed by Southern Cal and Colorado and Minnesota when it
yeah. Well,
mattered.
and didn't y'all lose to Cal too? I think so.
Yeah,
I'm
we
not sure.
it was a,
Absolutely.
we
Yeah.
we got edged by Cal. That was a pretty good game. It was thirty-eight
Yeah, it is.
thirty-one, And so, and right now is the first season, and next season I feel like I'll have a little bit better chance against some of those teams because I'll have faster players. And
Yeah.
it's all about having, and Raider Faithful said this on an old radio show. It's having plays, knowing what to call and when to call it, because sometimes, and I haven't watched Mississippi State, but what I notice that most people do is they rely too heavy on their best plays.
That's exactly what I do too.
Like you'll have a play, it practices well and it does well for a couple games. You could even get you like a high average and it works a lot, and then you call it like 12 or 13 times a game, maybe even more, and then teams will just pick up on it. You have to be able
Yeah.
to mix it up. And for a guy like you who doesn't have Empire Club, it's harder. It'll take like maybe 4 or 5 seasons to build a playbook that you're comfortable with. But all it does is take time. And That's why I always try to teach the importance of staying at a team, because while you're building a playbook, you're building a knowledge for the players that you have, and that also makes you better, because there's so many moments in history where all the best coaches, they started bad. I've only heard of a few coaches who, straight out of the gate started really good. Kazarek was one of those coaches. He was like undefeated his first 3 seasons, which was unheard of. And Fly started, went out of the gates pretty hot. But everybody else, Kyle and TNL, they had some pretty bad seasons to start. And they just were learning the system, making plays again. And, and the thing that's the positive note about you being in a hard conference is that all those losses that you take, you learn from all of them, and you'll make plays, and sometimes you'll even see a play and you're like, man, I gotta make that play. I don't know if you've done that before, but
yeah, I have.
It'll happen. You'll be like, man, Mississippi burned me with a play. I need to make it so I can maybe burn them with that play. And so,
yeah, I've done that. I actually when I was first starting and I first learned how to make plays and things, I would go back and I would see which of these teams had like one of the best offenses, So I looked at Purdue, I looked at Texas, I looked at all those Rutgers, Minnesota, all that, and I looked at their plays and I said, man, this is a good play. Let me add this to my playbook. And while I was doing that, I was making my own plays as well.
And that's a great idea to do when you've got, let's say, the coach's block, it's like writer's block, except it's for, coaching, playmaking. That's what you got to do, is just look at the top 25 teams and just watch one game. And I usually pick against the best team that they played, because that's when they were battle tested. Watch the game where they played the best team possible and just watch the plays and see what happens. The NFL in real life is a copycat league, and it's kind of like that in PSE too. You can learn a lot from all the top end coaches, and that's what I like when I like coaching with other people, is I learn from them and they learn from me, and we make each other better. Because at this point in PSE, I'm better at defense, and I enjoy the thrill of watching an offense and being able to be like, okay, how can I stop that? The best offenses have every kind of play. You can't really make one defense for Miami. That is just impossible, because they have so many plays that they can just hit you with. But being able to have the knowledge to know, okay, well, this play works well against this, and this play works well against this. Well, let me try it and test it. And if you stick to it in Mississippi State for 5, 10, 15 seasons, you'll be able to get up there and wins. You'll beat Mississippi one season. It was kind of like me in Central Michigan, where I was playing Notre Dame and they were just smacking me.
Okay.
What's that?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. And Notre Dame was smacking me every year, and then one year I just kept hitting them, and I kept hitting them. I kept making plays, and eventually I beat them. And that'll happen to Mississippi State with Mississippi. So
yeah,
that is that. I'm going to move to giving a shout-out to all the teams that won their conferences. Give a quick shout-out to South Florida, winning their conference championship, the American, 29-0. A shutout. I think it's the only shutout. Miami beat Florida State in the ACC championship, 43-7. The Northern Illinois destroyed Akron, 44-10. San Jose State, and this is so sad.
Oh yeah, shout out to San Jose State, man.
Yeah, shout out to San Jose State for beating a 4-9 team in the Mountain West Conference Championship. Could you imagine if they won?
That's pathetic, man.
Could you?
Oh my God.
Could you imagine if they won, a 5-win team making the playoffs, the mains?
No way, man.
Actually, that'd be fun to see.
That's probably the worst conference now.
Yeah, I know. The Mountain West, if you're a 4-win team and you're making the Mountain West Championship, then there's something wrong with that conference.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mississippi. Big shout out to Ole Miss for just making the national championship, but also winning the SEC championship. destroying Mississippi.
Oh wait, they made the Natty?
Yeah, the Mississippi Ole Miss made it the Natty. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, they did. Oh my god.
Yeah, huge shout out to Mississippi. They stunned me and everybody else, edging Purdue and Texas and Northern Illinois. 3 games in the playoffs where they won by 3 points. That is perfect football at its finest.
I thought they lost in like the semifinals.
No, they made it all the way. Want to give a shout out to the Conference USA champions, Southern Miss, the best conference championship, edging out Charlotte 30-27, and Southern Cal for destroying Cal 38-3, and Purdue beating Ohio State 31-14. So a lot of teams doing pretty good, but most of the conference championships were pretty one-sided. Like I said, Akron was the biggest disappointment, and the Mountain West was the most pathetic conference championship. Do you think all those guys are going to repeat next year, or do you think that there's anybody in any conference that's going to contend?
I actually think you can contend. Wait, no, never mind. It's gonna be hard. Once you get the talent, I think you can compete with USC.
Yeah, as much as I don't like to give the cliche I didn't call against Southern Cal, because even if I did call against Southern Cal, I probably still would have lost by around the same.
Yeah.
But I think Arizona's. I think we're seasons away from having any kind of shape, because I just shipped my best coach off to Texas, and so the development's not going to be quite there next season. I'll still try to have it. We got some really good guys devved this year, so our squad's going to be looking pretty nice next year with a lot of returning starters, plus a lot of good freshmen that I'm probably going to redshirt most of next season. I think Georgia's second season might contend with Missouri a little better. I don't know how well they'll do against Mississippi.
Yeah.
As I look,
SEC West is
the SEC
West. Yeah, it's kind of, because you never know, man.
Yeah, the SEC.
Because LSU actually shocked me when they beat Tulane. I was not expecting.
That game was pretty good. I remember that. Toledo and Northern Illinois always go neck and neck in the MAC, and you know, the ACC, Louisville used to be good, but not quite anymore.
Georgia Tech had a decent season.
They did, but no one's gonna contend with Miami. Miami's probably gonna win the national championship next year. Look how many tiebreaker points Miami had. 132 tiebreaker points.
How? That's a lot, man.
That means that they beat teams that had wins. Those are quality wins right there. And South Florida and Tulane, I mean, I'm a big fan of South Florida. I'm pretty sure RVJR is still there. And
yeah, I think he's there. He's there in Texas.
Yeah.
And Mizzou. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of him, but South Florida had such a huge loss against New Mexico State. And so hopefully, I mean, I'm pretty sure South Florida's probably gonna repeat next year. They shut out in the conference championship, so there's not a whole lot I can say.
Yeah.
And so there's that. And so
yeah, I think that's their conference, man. Tulane, you know, I don't think they're gonna beat South Florida, you know, until RV leaves, man.
All right, and so now we're gonna talk about. I'm just gonna give a quick shout out to some of the guys that are returning to PSE. I see that Mr. Alldays made a bit of a comeback. Gavin Citrus, shout out to you, Gavin Citrus. He used to be a mod in PSE, and I see that he's back. Yeah, he played a long time ago. JB, he's back. Shout out to JB. He's asking a lot of questions. I think he's on the right track to doing a lot of good things. So
yeah, I think he's at like Florida State and A&M. Florida A&M.
I think, yeah. And so a lot of people are returning to PSE. And a lot of new people asking good questions. I'm pretty excited about this new wave of coaches. Do you, as a newer coach yourself, do you have any tips or anything that you'd like all these new coaches to know?
Um, like you said, keep a balance with your play calling. You don't want to call the same plays over and over, and you'll get too predictable. So, don't do that. Build your playbook first. Focus on building your playbook before you start developing a high quality roster. And yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I think that it's good. I think the best way for someone to come in and be, to get a head start is to be battle tested. I know, like I said, I gave you a bit of a shout out because you're doing that in the SEC, joining a conference like the SEC, or joining a conference that has the best team like the ACC or not the Sun Belt, the Pac-12. Joining those
Yeah.
conferences being, the challenge, you might struggle heavily for the first few seasons, but after you kind of pick up what people are doing and you play and you play and you stick with it and you get some recruiting classes and build your playbook, you can be on your way to some big things. What do you think is important about the challenge or being in a challenging conference?
Um, Being in a challenging conference, you can learn a lot really. You're playing against high level competition, so it's not like you're playing against the worst teams in ECAA. You're playing against high quality competition, and it prepares you for future seasons and things like that. So it's great to play in a top conference, really.
Yeah, shout out to Beer Monkey who actually lifted the reputation restrictions, so now people can join PSE and go in Division 1 and go in the EFL right away, which is good because
Oh, really?
yeah, so and yeah, I messaged him a few weeks ago and I told him that it might have been holding new users back because you join and some people don't even want to be in Division 2. They want to go straight in for the kill. There's some
Yeah.
quality head coaching jobs out there. And as much as a lot of people say that it's a good idea to coach with somebody, it's also not a terrible idea to coach yourself. Some of the best coaches in this game are self-taught. And so if you're good at self-teaching yourself and learning and watching and sitting back and you're okay with the learning curve and taking beatings, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with being by yourself to start, as long as you have the patience to know that you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Recruiting has been easy for the last few seasons, but with more people joining the ECAA, it'll eventually get more challenging. People will start having to have battles in recruiting. Have you had the opportunity to have a battle for a good recruit? Have you won any good battles?
Um, Not any that I can remember. I think I have to check real quick, see some of the recruits I've gotten because most of my recruits came from Florida, and so there's a lot of recruits in Florida, and some got overlooked, and I just took them. But I've had recruiting battles. Like I think I had a recruiting battle with Texas and like South Florida and Miami, and I lost that. But other than that, I hadn't really had any recruiting battles that I have noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the guys I went after, they were pretty uncontested. So, but eventually, as people start joining PSC, and I'm working on something right now, but I can't say anything yet because it's not I haven't talked to anything. But the more people that come in, the better it'll be for recruiting, or at least the harder it'll be for recruiting. And so,
And the more competitive too.
yes, competition breeds some big winners. And so there's that for the ECAA. The EFL draft is tomorrow, I believe. Tomorrow or the next day. Because I work,
Yeah.
unfortunately, hashtag essential employee life, I probably won't have a show. I'll probably have a post-draft show about the draft, maybe, or like a season rollover. I might do like a PSC live rollover show Because rollover happened really fast last year. I don't know if you remember that, but it happened
Oh
in like
yeah,
15 minutes.
it literally happened. Yeah, like in
Like,
15 minutes after midnight Central Time.
yeah, and that was probably the fastest I've ever seen PSE rollover.
Yeah, because usually it's you'll get it until like noon that day.
Yeah, maybe. And so, Beer Monkey's doing some good things. The pages are getting polished.
Yeah.
Did you see that the logos are on the coaching pages now? Like the team logos are on like your coach page.
Coach. No, I haven't even noticed that.
Yeah,
Like,
if you're on the PSC site and you go to your coach page, like your team logos on it. I think that's pretty.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, it's some nice aesthetics. Beer Monkey's doing a great job, and I just say keep it up. He's doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, it's starting to get far from dead now. We have new people coming in, people coming back. You know.
The Sims looking nice. The only I wouldn't say complaint, because if you go back and watch the game, it was all warranted as turnovers are huge. But I think that's just because defenses are playing well. Like the defenses are getting rewarded. And
Yeah.
because that was some pretty good defense, and so if your quarterback throws a bad pass, it's getting picked off, and so
That's nice to see too.
yeah, wide open passes are all being caught. I have not seen a wide open pass get dropped in a very long time, which is good because it used to happen.
It's happened to me this season, but most of my cornerbacks aren't they don't have like C hands. It's like D- or something.
Corners, yeah, I've seen corners drop interceptions. I think that they can get. As far as receivers go, though, I haven't seen a.
Oh, receivers!
Yeah,
oh,
I haven't seen an open pass get dropped by a receiver in quite some time.
and me neither.
And so that's a good thing. Run blocking's good. You see some good running backs. My running back at Arizona State had 1,600 yards, and my running back at Carolina had 2,000 yards. And quarterbacks are doing good, although both my quarterbacks had 20-plus interceptions, so I'm probably going to work on that.
God dang!
Yeah.
20 picks.
Yeah.
God.
I know my quarterback at Carolina. You see, the thing is he's a rookie though, and he's a 6th-round rookie at that. Like he was from Division II.
6th round.
And I'll get into that in a second. Yeah, he's a 6th-round pick. I'm pretty sure he had like 25 interceptions, 47 touchdowns, 25 interceptions. But that's not his fault because I was throwing it like 40 times a game. And I don't know if you could tell, but quarterbacks get worse as the game goes on if you throw it a lot. And so
yeah, definitely. I remember when people used to just run full air raid a few seasons ago.
Yeah, and it used to work. And now people have to watch out because good defenses will be punished now, and so bad offenses will be punished, bad throws will be punished. Arizona State's quarterback actually didn't do bad. He had a 62%, 27 touchdowns, and 10 picks. So that's not bad at all.
Yeah, I recommend for new players to work more on defense before they get to offense, really.
Well, defense can get complicated. The best advice I can give to somebody is make sub plays. And yes, it takes a long time to make sub plays, and it seems like it'll be hard and it's boring. But it'll help you out because it can bail you out of a lot of situations too. And just trial and error. See what works and see what doesn't, and keep trying and just keep messing with the playmaker, the play creating screen. And so for the EFL draft, I have a few tips to give to some people, new people. Don't be afraid to pick the best player available, because at the end of the day, in college and in pro, you just got to get football players. That's all it is.
You got to build the best team you can.
Yeah. Needs is arbitrary, because if you see a stud and he's a stud and you have a stud at that position, there's nothing wrong with you having two. Unless it's a quarterback, then I guess that's kind of pointless. But
yeah,
don't be afraid to pick best player available. You could pick needs too. That's good. Try not to draft offensive line too early. because they can go into the later rounds, and you don't want to pay an offensive lineman a boatload of money because it's kind of easy to develop offensive line.
I actually had a linebacker. He's probably a free agent now or something. But I had a linebacker, outside linebacker is what he played. He had a 4.140.
Ooh.
The freak, just athletic, just monster, man. He was dangerous coming out the edge, man. He had like 5 sacks in the game against Stanford. I mean, and he's out there somewhere. His name is Dwight Epstein. You know, you can pick him up on free agency if he's no free agent. But just always build the best team you can build.
Yeah, I might have to look up on that. But yeah, you just pretty much got to build the best team possible. The players will come and the players will fall, and players on your board, and trading might seem fun and all that stuff. And the draft is fun. I gotta give it to the draft. The draft is fun to do, and pro is really fun. Especially
I plan on going to Pittsburgh when I get everything together. Hope to go to Pittsburgh, but EFL seems interesting. I have to start paying more attention to it.
You definitely have more of a grind in the ECAA, and it's more flattering to win because, it's college. The atmosphere in college is so much more fun, but there are so many fun aspects about the EFL. And so doing the draft is fun. So yeah, best player available. Make sure to do your scouting throughout the season. Scout the best teams. Make sure to do your homework because, you got to be able to. You just have to be able to manage your cap as good as you can, and don't be afraid to make splashes. Some people will hate on people for saying overpaying people, but if you really want a guy and he'll make your team better, hey, go make that $10 million offer on that running back. Ain't nothing wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
If you want that punter, man, pay him $10 million, man. It doesn't matter.
Oh man, punters are important. If you don't recruit a good kicker or punter or draft one, you're in for a rude awakening, because not having quality as a punter can really hurt. So.
Yeah, that and kicker, because you never know when you need to make that big field goal. When you having a 60 Val kicker, it's not gonna help.
Oh, not by any means. Always do at least like 10, 15 field goal practices a year just to develop them just a little bit.
Dang it, man! Yeah.
Solid. But
yeah, man.
What?
I was just looking at the side and saw that my best receiver is declaring early.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, this sucks.
When they go all out in their last season, they'll do that. But,
I don't even understand why he did it, because he didn't really have a great season before, but then this season I came back and started being active with play calling, and he was like a finalist for the Golden Hands trophy. So
that's pretty good. Yeah, I don't really get players that go for trophies, because I try to balance it by running pass as best as I can. But I had some players. The quarterback I had this year, he was kind of a dunce at some points, but he was pretty good when I needed him to be. And so, quality quarterbacks seem to be more important now, more than ever, because you need a quarterback who can make the throws. And if you can't make the throws, then it could really hurt your team, huge. And so
also, some people are determining whether it's better to have a quarterback with speed or a quarterback with A+ speed, or is it better just F speed and just way better accuracy?
It depends on what you do with them. Now, if you have a playbook and you have good rollouts and you have good QB runs, which a lot of people do, then it can be worth it to have a fast quarterback. But for me, the F speed isn't. I can never do F speed. F speed's kind of hard. But there will be some guys with C speed or D+ or C+ that'll do the job just fine. I prefer guys who can throw, because they'll make all the throws that you need them to make. But
Facts.
some people need those rollout quarterbacks, and they do really good. So I know Georgia and Ole Miss and Miami have really good rollouts. So
Yeah.
and Houston killed me with their rollouts. So all right, well, I think that's about it for our show for today. Like I said, I probably won't be able to do a draft show, but I'll probably do a pre-draft show or a season rollover show, depending on how well this show is received. But yeah, make sure to stick with it and watch out for another episode. If you want to be a guest star or a host, or you want to be a part of the show stat wise or anything, be a stat keeper, just hit me up on Discord or on PSC 0 Dimes, and I'll see if I can get you on the show. So unless you have anything to say, I think that'll pretty much wrap it up for us.
Yeah. One person we overlooked. He's a D2 coach. He's been in the Discord lately, and I've been noticing. His name's Clutch Move. He's starting to build a decent program, rebuilding Robert Morris in Division Two. So I just want to acknowledge him as well, and that's it.
Shout out to you, Clutch Smooth. Keep up the good work, buddy. All right, thank you for watching.
Be what you do.
See you guys next time.